The 10 count is called on Anthem. It's a knockout. This looter shooter will need to be carried out of the ring. Meanwhile, a new challenger hits the scene this week named Outriders. Does this one have the chops to go toe-to-toe with these industry powerhouses, or will there be another knockout in the near future? Find out now on this issue of the Gamerville Gazette. Hello, residents of Gamerville, and welcome back to your trusted news source, the Gamerville Gazette. As always, I am your host, Theodore Smith, aka Teddy, here to give you the inside scoop on today's top headlines. By now, I'm sure that most of you have heard the grim news. Anthem Next, BioWare and EA's attempt to resurrect their looter shooter, has officially been cancelled. After 1 year of being released to a lukewarm reception, and then another year trying to correct its many flaws, it seems that Anthem has become more of a funeral march. I always hate to see a AAA project fail. I mean, without mega corporations using gambling mechanics, FOMO techniques, and relentless ad campaigns, all designed to siphon away all of your money, what else are we supposed to do with it? This is how you wind up with gamers on the stock market, people, and nobody wants that. Now, I wasn't 100% sold on the idea of running a full post-mortem on Anthem. No sense in beating a dead Iron Man, so to speak. However, a few weeks ago, gamers were treated to a demo of a new looter shooter grind, Outriders, by Polish developers People Can Fly. Why is all this relevant besides the game sharing the same genre? I mean, there are plenty of successful looter shooters out there that were able to avoid the pitfalls of Anthem. Well, let's consult the chart. Traversing a hostile alien world? Check. Planetary storms wreaking havoc on the local populace? Check-a-rooney. And a developer with no prior direct experience in the looter shooter genre? Check-a-mundo. That there's a concerning hat trick if I've ever seen one, and I know a thing or two when it comes to hats. So now that we have the similarities out of the way, what does Outriders need to do differently to avoid their predecessor's fate? I mean, Anthem had access to more money than the value of Roblox. Yes, Roblox, look it up. This is a relevant joke and probably the scariest news in this video. Anyway, even with all of that money, they still couldn't make the game successful. Well, I've done all the hard work of stealing ideas from successful games to bring you the 3 best practices to keep Outriders alive post-launch. No need to thank me, donations to my PayPal will do just fine. Number 1. Frequent content rollouts. This one here had me the most concerned for the fate of Outriders. You see, People Can Fly had stated numerous times that this game would not be a live service, which basically would seal their fate immediately in terms of earning potential. Luckily, they have since clarified those remarks by basically erasing them from history. We don't mean by this is not a live service game that we'll abandon the game immediately after launch. Even if the game isn't super successful, we still have plans to make some adjustments to the balance and some other things. But if the game is more successful and people like it, we're more than happy to create more adventures. It's up to how players react to the game and how they overall feel about the game. So, you weren't just going to make content for the game unless people wanted to give you money for the content, in which case you're open to the idea. I'm glad we cleared that up, guys. I call this pulling the old switcheroo. Hopefully the devs are better at performing this ill-timed 180 than that ship in the Suez Canal. Now that you've opened the door to the possibility of post-launch content, we just have to determine the size, scope, and frequency. After all your talk of the game not being a live service, I think you have ruined any chance at a seasonal challenge rollout a la Division 2. Though, let's be honest, no one wants to replay the same missions over and over again just to have a chance at playing an underwhelming boss fight every few weeks. Most of the challenge left in that game was coming up with a reason to play. No, at this point we're probably looking at something similar to Destiny 2. One big annual update with 2 or 3 smaller content drops throughout the year. A decent enough plan that seems to have worked out pretty well for Bungie thus far. Keeps you relevant, keeps players engaged, keeps your pre-orders rolling in, though I must admit that this course of action is fairly standard and is missing that spark to make the content really interesting. A flip of the coin and you're right back where Anthem landed. My recipe for success is to adopt the plan of Diablo 3. Arbitrary seasonal content that relies heavily on procedurally generated engagements. Let me decode that leet speak for you. First, implement seasons into the game that only amount to like a single armor or legendary weapon. The seasons can run for like 6 weeks at a time for no explicit reason, and in order to get access to these special pieces of gear, it requires that everyone start a totally new character and play through the entire game from scratch. Why? Because you said so, that's why. It worked for my dad, and it can work for you. And to keep things fresh while also keeping the profits high, force the entire game onto an RNG mechanic so that the content can never become stale. The levels, the enemies, the gear, the glitches, all randomly generated. Sure, every so often the odds will stack up snake eyes and force players to fight 10 bosses simultaneously with 0 health potions, but to balance that out, there'll also be completely empty rooms to casually stroll through. Apparently Fortnite can have fashion show content, so why not Outriders? Number 2. Time-gated content. Next up, let's double down on that time-gated content. Gamers, whether you want to admit it or not, you love that stuff, and AAA studios know it. For those who don't believe me, I'd like to tell you a story about an in-game item called the Gjallarhorn. Once upon a time, there was a shadowy creature named Xur. Xur was an agent of the Nine within the lore of Destiny who was responsible for bringing legendary weapons and armor to the good little guardians of Destiny. Every weekend, Xur would gather a few notable items and take them to a random location among the stars for guardians to seek him out and do business. Now, during one particular appearance, his second appearance ever in the game, he brought with him a weapon named the Gjallarhorn. The Gjallarhorn shoulder-mounted rocket system was designed and personally crafted by Faisal Crux as a gift to the Guardians who fought the Battle of the Twilight Gap. Forged from the armor of the thousands who fell, to wield Gjallarhorn is to wield honor against any attempt at our extermination. This mighty weapon was available for 1 weekend and was not sold again for almost a year, forcing players to rely on an extremely low RNG rate for months on end. However, this spawned countless conversations on the internet about its prowess. It launched a physical Gjallarhorn that you could buy in stores for well over $100. It was nearly impossible to join any legitimate raiding party without owning this hulking beast. The simple, nearly unobtainable creation had managed to catapult the original Destiny into superstardom simply through its rarity. Since then, Destiny has attempted time after time to capture that lightning in a bottle once more, nowadays resorting to literally time-gating previously playable content for the purpose of refreshing it, basically replacing the need for a sequel by simply improving and editing content that was already a part of the base game. Call it what you will, Bungie, but I know FOMO when I see it. Time-gated content, Outriders. Your fans will love it. And that brings us to number 3, personality. The one issue that stood out to me the most as a player of Anthem was its lack of personalization. There was a rudimentary painting system for your mech suit, and there were some exclusive skins for purchase to add a little bit more flair to your setup. But it still felt sort of hollow. And the weapons and armor upgrades were the worst part. So many copy-pasted models with slight damage variations. There was no excitement in loot drops because it all felt so vanilla. And there's no room for vanilla at Baskin-Robbins 32 flavors. Well, there is, but leave my analogy alone. People Can Fly have already shown off several weapon and armor models in-game that look truly unique and menacing, but I think they can take it even further with in-game advertising. Incorporate commercial products into the crafting system in order to unlock one-of-a-kind skins and legendary arsenals. You could even work it into the story. How about this? The former inhabitants of Earth had to scramble in a last-ditch effort to leave the dying planet behind and travel the stars in search of a new home. They had precious few moments to grab essential belongings prior to boarding. Precious keepsakes, family heirlooms, and a year's supply of Twinkies because of their impressively long shelf life. Now, with humanity caught in a brutal civil war, you try to collect Twinkies off of dead soldiers in the hopes that you can craft a wicked revolver previously owned by Twinkie the Kid. A bit of a stretch maybe, but we all know that it would be the new Gjallarhorn of this franchise. All said and done, I am looking forward to the release of Outriders, and hopefully we can look back a year from now to see if the developers took any of my advice, making their game a smashing success. Why don't you go ahead and tweet this video to them right now, so that way they have a chance to incorporate all of these amazing ideas into the game. For more of the greatest takes on the latest news, subscribe to this channel, and keep an eye out for the next issue of the Gamerville Gazette. I hope you enjoyed that video. It really means a lot that you made it all the way here to the end. Thanks so much for watching. It really does mean a lot, and if you're new here, go ahead and consider subscribing. You know, it's free for you and it does help me out quite a bit. Also, if you'd like to check out some more of our content, right here's a video that I recently did on Valheim, and I think it's a really good one. I think you'd enjoy it. Be sure to hit me up on social media if you'd like to see a particular topic. The links are in the description to my Twitter. You can also join our Discord if you're interested, become an official resident of Gamerville. And until next time, you guys have a great day.